Welcome to ABC News Live. I'm Diane Macedo. Top stories this morning. Bill Cosby faces sentencing for his sexual assault conviction. President Trump speaking out at the UN General Assembly, and Brett Kavanaugh, Supreme Court nominee, also speaking out in an unprecedented interview addressing those sexual misconduct allegations against him. We will have the latest on all of those stories, but first, here are your headlines.
In Gastonia, North Carolina, near Charlotte, police are still looking for an autistic 6-year-old missing since Saturday. FBI Special Agent Jason Kaplan.
We still want to do everything possible to find Maddox, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to do that.
And 5 days after a fire ripped through a senior living facility in Washington, D.C., a 74-year-old man has been found alive in the rubble.
It appears that, based on the report that I got from the building workers, that he was sitting in his apartment. The workers helped him into a chair and out of the building, and he is now being treated.
Instagram's founders are leaving their company. Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger say they'll bow out in the next few weeks. The two created Instagram in 2010, then sold it to Facebook 2 years later for about $1 billion.
The Philadelphia Flyers have introduced their new mascot, Gritty, a 7-foot orange fuzzy creature.
I think if he could talk, he would say, "Bring it on," right? He would. He loves it. Bring it on. He eats his opponents for breakfast.
Some say they love it, and others, not so much.
Grady, not so graceful on his skates there, but we're going to start things off with President Trump at the UN, making a big speech at the General Assembly, talking about international trade, U.S. sovereignty, and his own accomplishments. Jordan Phelps is there outside the UN. Jordan, what were some of the highlights of this speech?
Yeah, good morning. This speech in many ways was a contrast from last year's speech, which was characterized by sort of these dark warnings for North Korea. This year's speech kicked off with a moment of levity. Take a listen.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Yeah, guys, so you can hear the president there getting laughter from the audience in really touting the accomplishments of his administration. That's a line that I might note gets wild cheers at his rallies. This, of course, a very different audience in front of global leaders, and it was received quite differently. But the president going on with a serious message, making this case against sovereignty, or in favor of sovereignty over globalism, I should say, saying that the United States doesn't subscribe to this idea of globalism and instead sides with patriotism. The president didn't have harsh words for North Korea this year as he did last. Instead, he actually thanked Chairman Kim. Take a listen to what he had to say.
With support from many countries here today, we have engaged with North Korea to replace the specter of conflict with a bold and new push for peace. In June, I traveled to Singapore to meet face-to-face with North Korea's leader, Chairman Kim Jong-un. We had highly productive conversations and meetings, and we agreed that it was in both countries' interest to pursue the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
So the president there touting progress on North Korea and instead turning his fire to Iran. He accused the regime there of lining their own pockets at the expense of their people, calling the regime bloody in its motivations. So some really harsh words for Iran this year.
And Jordan, what was the reception like in the room as he's going through all this?
The reception, as we noted, he got that moment of laughter, which was a bit odd and unexpected. But, you know, when the president is on the global stage like this, he gets the reception of the leader of the United States of America. You know, he is, for all intents and purposes, the most powerful person in that room, and that's the reception he really receives.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll also be hearing more reaction to this as the day goes on and people start really combing through all those comments. But I want to shift gears a little bit because this is all happening as the top administration official overseeing the Russia investigation could be on his way out. What's the latest we know on the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein?
Yeah, this has been a wacky storyline. We were here at the UN yesterday expecting to cover global affairs, and instead there was a story that came out saying that Rosenstein had offered a verbal offer to resign. We then heard he was heading to the White House, and Rosenstein himself was at that time expecting that he might be on the way out. But in a wild turn of events, Rosenstein left the White House not long thereafter with a smile and a handshake from Chief of Staff John Kelly in front of cameras and the promise to meet with President Trump on Thursday. Now, I should say that his job security is by no means guaranteed here. The president isn't offering those assurances. And take a listen to what Sarah Sanders had to say on GMA this morning.
Does the president have confidence in Mr. Rosenstein?
The president has confidence in the system, and he...
That's not what I asked.
He wants to, again, I'm not going to get ahead of the conversation that's going to take place. Certainly, he wants things to take place. There have been a number of incidents that have caused a great deal of concern, not just to the president, but to Americans all over the country. People like Bruce Orr, McCabe, and a number of others who have been dishonest and not played the role that they were meant to play through the FBI and through the Department of Justice. And the president wants to have a conversation with Rod Rosenstein, and that'll take place on Thursday.
He wants to know.
So, Sanders, they're not offering the administration's confidence in Rosenstein. That, of course, is a huge warning sign because the common administration line is the president, of course, has confidence in every member of his team or they wouldn't be here. So stay tuned for Thursday. But, of course, the reason why Rosenstein's job is so critical is because of what it means for the Mueller investigation. He oversees Mueller's team, so if he exits, that raises a whole lot of questions about the future of that probe. And Sanders also not offering any assurances that the president will let that probe go forward unabated if Rosenstein is out.
All right, a lot of concerns over how this will play out. Jordan Phelps for us at the UN. Jordan, thank you. Meanwhile, the administration is also dealing with sexual misconduct allegations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Now, Kavanaugh himself gave an unprecedented interview on Fox News last night with his wife by his side. Terry Moran is outside the Supreme Court with the latest for us. And Terry, Kavanaugh's message seems to be pretty clear that he is not backing down.
That's right. He's in this for the fight, and he says he will not be pushed out by any of these accusations, which he categorically denied in that interview. You're absolutely right. This is unprecedented. Supreme Court justices, you might notice, they don't give a lot of television interviews. Supreme Court nominees never have, but it's just a sign of how all of those old traditions have been tossed out, and we are in raw partisan warfare right now. And one of the elements that can be used by Republicans who are trying to get Brett Kavanaugh on this court by next Monday, frankly, is the notion that he can go out and sell himself. And that's what he did in a very friendly environment. Fox News, of course, very friendly to this administration, in which he declared he's not going anywhere. Listen in.
I want a fair process where I can defend my integrity, and I know I'm telling the truth. I know my lifelong record, and I'm not going to let false accusations drive me out of this process.
So it's quite an emotional time for him and his family. That was clear in this interview as well. But what was also clear is, you know, like most judges, he's not a politician. He doesn't go out and make speeches. He doesn't do television interviews. And yet his future, not just whether or not he gets on this court, but his reputation rests on how well he does on TV there and in the hearings on Thursday. It is an unprecedented situation. Once again, this court, this nomination, like everything else in our country, kind of dragged into the current polarized political moment, probably for the worse.
Yeah, for a guy who's not used to it, he's certainly getting a lot of practice in the spotlight, reluctantly, I'm sure, Terry. So where do the proceedings stand at this point?
Well, Thursday there is going to be a hearing. Republicans want it to be the only hearing Right now, only 2 witnesses are scheduled. Brett Kavanaugh's first accuser, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, who says he sexually assaulted her in high school, and Brett Kavanaugh. Just she said, he said. Her team wanted more witnesses. The other man she alleges was in the room inciting Kavanaugh. That's not going to happen. She wanted the polygraph expert who had administered a lie detector test to her, which she passed. That's not going to happen. And now there's this other accuser who has come forward, Deborah Ramirez. Democrats want her heard. Republicans are considering, well, just put her into the hearing on 2 days' notice. They want this done. The committee is already talking about a vote on Friday, and the Republican leadership is talking about a vote in the full Senate this weekend so that on the first Monday of October, which is next Monday, that court would open with a Justice Brett Kavanaugh. But we are a long way from there.
All right, Terry Moran for us outside the Supreme Court. Terry, thanks.
You bet.
And Bill Cosby is back in court today, facing sentencing for his sexual assault conviction after an emotional day in court yesterday. Accuser Andrea Constant and her family made passionate statements in court. Cosby chose not to speak nor have anybody speak on his behalf. Elizabeth Herr is outside the courthouse in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Elizabeth, what do we expect today?
Hi, Diane. Well, right now what we understand is happening is before Cosby is formally sentenced, the judge must rule on whether Cosby can be classified as a sexually violent predator. Now, why this is happening before the sentencing is because this sets up the guideline that in the event Cosby is paroled, these are the guidelines that he must follow, and they're quite strict. For the rest of his life, he has to register as a sex offender. He has to get lifetime counseling. That also involves lifetime victim notification and community notifications. The defense attorneys, as you can imagine, they're fighting this. They're saying this is a scarlet letter for the comedian, the former comedian, and the law they're arguing is unconstitutional. But the prosecutors, they fired back saying the law is there to protect the public, and to say that he is not a danger, they don't buy it. They say the 81-year-old was drugging people as a, actually they said he specialized in drugging and gets some sort of sexual arousal. He is a danger, and this classification must apply to Cosby. And so right now we are waiting for the judge to make that determination.
Got it.
Then the sentencing.
You just anticipated my next question. In terms of sentencing, Elizabeth, what is he facing and how much time is he actually likely to do?
That's right. Well, you know, as of yesterday, the counts under which he was convicted, 3 counts of indecent aggravated assault, and each of the counts carried a maximum of 10 years. And so yesterday we were reporting that he could face up to 30 years in prison. But during the hearing, the proceedings yesterday, the 2 sides agreed that the counts can be merged into one because the charge stemmed from one encounter. So what that means is right now, under the state sentencing guidelines, he could go to prison for up to 10 years. Yesterday, prosecutors asked for up to 5 to 10 years in prison. The defense, they're asking for house arrest or probation.
All right, Elizabeth Herr from Norristown, Pennsylvania, outside the Cosby courtroom. We will be watching very closely to get that out, that judgment as soon as it comes down. Elizabeth, thank you. And now to that new warning about chasing likes. People are putting themselves in danger and rescuers in danger, trying to get that perfect photograph for social media. Well, now officials are sounding the alarm and hoping to put a stop to this. Kana Whitworth has more on that story for us. Kana?
Yeah, hey, Diane, it's incredible the risks that people are willing to take just to be popular on social media. They're doing these ridiculous stunts like jumping from high rocks, landing in shallow water. At best, they're breaking bones and becoming injured. At worst, they are dying. And now officials are sounding the alarm. It's a huge problem here in Los Angeles. Let me throw some numbers at you. According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, their search and rescue team, they conducted 681 missions in 2017. So that is the largest number in 5 years. That is up almost 40% from 2013. This increasingly risky pursuit of likes is leading to death. Just this past weekend, a woman in Michigan fell off a cliff while she was trying to take a selfie. This problem is something that is new to authorities, and they would like it to stop. Keep this in mind, that they have to send their rescue helicopter up about 500 times every single year, and that's just here in LA County. And Diane, I keep thinking my dad always said, let common sense prevail. And it seems to be the case here.
Let common sense prevail, and when your friends jump off the bridge, it doesn't mean you have to. In this case, I'm not sure parents realized we'd have to take that literally. Kana Whitworth there from California. Thanks, Kate. And now we get to the latest in the weather forecast for some severe weather in the Midwest and the Northeast. Ginger Z is in the Weather Center with the latest on that. Ginger?
Diane, thank you. Let's go ahead and start with those weather headlines that still find their way in South Carolina and North Carolina, but mostly south. As we're along that Waccamaw River, you're seeing images out of Conway, just one of the communities that is still seeing major flooding and rising flooding because the river has not crested yet. It will on Wednesday afternoon, but then you're going to add some rain, so we're going to have even bigger issues. A lot of tropical moisture has been fueling in. You got that low that could become a depression. Even if it doesn't, though, we still have those flood warnings up from North and South Carolina to the flash flood watches for the actual system that's moving through in parts of Kentucky and West Virginia, southern Ohio, too. That low, we'll time it out for you, will get close enough to land that rip currents are possible along the beaches and certainly going to be a breezy one, but you could end up seeing a ½ inch of rain. Then you add the cold front, and that's another inch to 2 inches total. So you're going to have those swollen rivers, and any extra rain is a problem. The heaviest of this whole system, though, is going to fall back west of the troubled areas. Either way, we are watching the rain showers, the thunderstorms that are to come, and we've been watching them. Look at this. This is out of Cannon County, Tennessee. That's just east of Murfreesboro. That was a reported tornado, and we're going to see if the damage lines up. Either way, you've got another chance of seeing those today, not just tornadoes, but damaging wind, and certainly the hail threat from Columbus, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Fort Wayne, Indiana, say Champaign, Urbana. All of these areas with that cold front could see damaging winds, and then this all slides to the east, and along that front, it comes to the northeast on the Wednesday. So mid-Atlantic, too, West Virginia, more rain as if you need it in Pennsylvania, parts of New York, also Vermont, New Hampshire, and even western Maine. So a lot to be watching for this week, Diane.
All right, we will keep the umbrellas handy. Ginger Z for us from the Weather Center. Thank you. And that does it for us for ABC News Live. Remember, you can check your headlines all day long at abcnews.com or at your ABC News app. For ABC News Live, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for watching, everyone.